me, it took up all this mental bandwidth where I was constantly overthinking and being very self-conscious. And it ate up at me. And like I was telling Rolanda earlier, it impacted my dating life. Do you think that, if you're single, when you go on dates, do you have to move your mouth? Do you gotta talk? Do you gotta be confident?
Yes.
Okay. It impacted my career because as you move up the corporate ladder, anything director level and above, what's 90% of their job responsibility?
Speaking.
In team meeting after team meeting after team meeting, and the only thing they're doing in that team meeting is speaking and talking, right? It impacted my physical health because the number one cause of a heart attack in America is what?
Stress.
Stress. Most people come to me and they say, Ariel, I feel stressed out about this presentation coming up. I feel like I'm gonna vomit. I don't know what to do. It's gonna be real hard to put it together. And for me, it was impacting my physical health because I was a big wound up ball, like a stress ball. So that's no way to live. And it definitely was impacting my money, okay? Because I wanted to speak at conferences, but before you could even speak at conferences, you have to convince the meeting planner or the conference producer to even let you get up there. So again, it goes back to using your mouth. Now, you might not be doing 1,000-person presentation, but you gotta talk to that person and you gotta get them on board as to why you're someone that they should let up there in front of their audience, right? So it all comes back to being articulate, being confident, believing in what you have to say. And I realized that for me, it was something I had to get a handle of.
Yep.
So in 2012, after trying everything under the sun, programs that had me do 5 to 7 minute presentations, we touched on it earlier, trying all kinds of, all kinds of corporate programs, I just said enough is enough, and I decided to hire the best mentors in the world, because how many people understand that in order to get success, you have to have mentorship. Mentorship is the highest form of knowledge. Some things you can't read about in the book. Some things, I don't care how many YouTube videos you watch, it's not enough. So I decided in 2012 that I was going to get access to the best mentors in the world, and I paid not the money, but the investment to do so, and it changed my life. And out of that coaching and mentorship and everything that I did in 2012, I transformed myself from an introvert into an extrovert. And when I did that, I said, I got a business here. And thus, that's how Atlanta Public Speaking got started. And for decades of my life, I struggled with this thing. Finally, I fixed it. And when I said, damn, like this took me a long time to figure out. When I fixed it, I said, oh, I got it. I got a business. I started Atlanta Public Speaking, and I never looked back since.
So you created your own formula, your own strategy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Based on you attending all of these different, you said mentors.
I paid money. I paid over 50 grand to get access to the best speakers in the world.
Okay.
Some you may recognize on YouTube. And it wasn't their programs, their courses, but actually getting that mentorship where I spent time with them in person, like being this close to them. That was what did the trick. And then, like I said, when I transformed, then everything else was easy for me. Now I could just walk into a room, a networking room, and rub elbows with every person in that room, mix and mingle, talk to people, and just be someone that commands respect. I can look at somebody at the gym and, hey, I think I want to talk to that person. I just head over, talk to that person, you know. I can be in a place where it's like a business meeting and I feel like that person can add value to my organization, and I just go up and make that conversation. I start that conversation, right? I could be in front of 1,000 people and I'm just being the same way that I'm being right now. You know, just be yourself. So it's not about having situational confidence. It's about having core confidence, baseline confidence, where it stays with you everywhere that you go. There's a fine line, and there's always a tension between being and becoming. Being, smell the roses. Be where your feet are at. Be here, be present. Becoming, I'm thinking about my self-ideal, I'm thinking about the future, I'm thinking about how can I achieve and become that person, right? There's always that line of demarcation, right? And I think for me, what really did the trick is when I stopped trying so hard to perform and just be. So nowadays I do conferences and I never prepare anything at all. Now I have corporate presentations because they like slides. I got a slide deck that I got, you know, through Fiverr.com. You know, got somebody to do like a slide deck for me. So for them, I'll do the slides, but not for me. I don't prepare. And one interesting thing that I found out is that we are able to talk for long periods of time, very intelligently, by the way, nonstop. And so I at first I thought it was just something that I stumbled upon, and then I realized, oh no, I started to teach my students how to do that. And now I teach my students that you can just get up here and talk, and when I say go, you're gonna talk, and you're gonna keep going up until I say stop. And by the way, if I never say stop, you never stop talking.
How is that even?
Like, what y'all talking about?
So for me, I don't want to stop, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because I find it extremely fascinating when people can talk, and I wonder what is going on in their head for them to come up with, to be able to articulate that, and it's just ongoing, and not realize that they're, you know what I'm saying? I just find that fascinating because I don't have that type of bandwidth in my head. I don't think, but if you feel like you can bring that out of me, I'm all for it. But I find that extremely fascinating to see people not have have something in their hand and they're just constantly going and going and going. And at some point it gets freaking annoying, but I think I literally have said, I think it's fascinating that you have not shut up, that you can really keep going. And that's just, it's really fascinating for me.
Yeah, it's a learnable skill. It's a learnable skill. So the question is, what is going on through my head as I'm spewing all this content? And the answer is nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. I'm not thinking one thought. Right now, I'm here with you, being present, and I'm just allowing my mouth to move. I turn off the thinking mind completely, because a lot of people, they get in their own way, right? So there's a chemical called epinephrine. Another word for it is the fight or flight or freeze chemical, right? Activates in your brain, floods through your veins, and all of a sudden, you're no longer yourself, right? But when we can learn to control that chemical, you'd be surprised how much information you have access to. You've been sponging up data since you were 1 year old. You've been speaking since the age of 1. Think about it. You've been speaking forever. So it's not something that I'm gonna do for you. It's more so of you getting out of your own way. Not letting that chemical stop you. Not letting that mental block stop you. You know, so it's like control muscles versus release muscles.
Yeah, I think for me it's more self-conscious and making sure that I sound
good. I'm saying it right.
I'm saying it right. Yeah, I think that's more so.
So we're in a speaking class. The first thing that I want you guys to understand is how you speak to yourself. I never say to myself, I don't think I could do that. I'm not sure. I'm wondering how people can do that. I just don't, I find it fascinating that people can do that. And I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. Like, think about what you're telling your subconscious. You're creating your own reality.
So it's all an illusion.
Instead, here's what I want you to write down. I want you to write this down. Everything that comes from my mouth is pure gold. You guys see the difference? So when you have a belief that everything that comes from your mouth is pure gold, you can't do no wrong. And even if that was a double negative, I don't care, because it's still gold. You know, you're still gonna have fumbles, that's okay. But that's your fumbles, that's your gold. It's like you're embracing who you are. Self-love is so important, right? For others to love you, who do you have to love first? Yourself. And a lot of people, when they'll do a selfie video, they look at all the things that they're cringe about. Oh, I don't like the sound of my voice. Oh, look, my forehead's big. Or look at all these.
That's me.
Have you ever fallen in love with somebody and they weren't your type? They become more like a fungus. They start growing on you. Like, man, I don't know. But the more I'm around that person, I think I'm feeling something. What's going on? It wasn't like that in the beginning. They're not my type, right? So they grew on you. Why? Because you started to notice the good things about that person. And it overrode all the things that were not your type, right? There's something in the brain called the reticular activator system, the RAS, and that helps you to filter out whatever it is that you are paying attention to, right? So if I buy a Tesla, all of a sudden, what am I going to see a bunch of? Weren't they always there? That's like me saying, hey, you hear that hum from the AC?
Yeah.
I'm gonna pay attention to that.
But it was there the whole time. It was there the whole time.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff happening at the subconscious level. What we got to do first is bring the subconscious to the forefront so we can become aware. Right? And what I wanted to do this morning is bring the subconscious musings, the whispers, shall I say, that are happening underneath the hood. Let's bring it up so we have awareness. If you want to start a budget, what's the first thing you have to do? First 30 days, you got to do what? You got to track, you got to be knowing where your money is going, right? Same thing for time. A lot of people, they have problems with procrastination. They have problems with motivation. You know what I started doing? I started to get those Pandora clocks, and I wind up, it's a little military clock. And I just wind it up, and I want to track every 15 minutes. What do you mean? I just put a little timer, and in 15 minutes it's going to go ding, 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 ding. And what happens then? Then I do an audit, and I say, how did you spend the last 15 minutes? And it's something brief. It could be like a voice memo. What'd you do in the last 15 minutes? Well, you know, I was on the couch. I was eating potato chips, or I was on YouTube. You see, that's not productive, right? Or I was writing. I was writing pages to my book, or I was posting on social media, right? So it just becomes checkpoints because we need to have feedback. Tony Robbins said it best: feedback is the breakfast of champions. We gotta have a lot of feedback. You know? So if I'm having 4 feedback loops per hour, and most people got hours just going, but I play a basketball game with every hour. You see, there's 4 quarters, right? So every 15 minutes, it's, end the first quarter. What'd you do? Okay. See, do you see? So we gotta start looking with microscope on our time, on our activities. Don't confuse, write this down. Don't confuse splashing for swimming. They're not the same thing. A lot of people are splashing out there, making a lot of noise in that pool. They sure ain't swimming though. So we have to understand, what are the needle moving activities that's actually going to bring us closer to our goals? A lot of people don't even have goals. And some just write them down in the beginning of the year. Some got goals, they write them down, and then they won't even pay attention to them. Some got vision boards, but that's not, you gotta review your goals every single day. You might want to write that down. I gotta write down my goals. That's obvious. But I gotta review them every day. That's not so obvious. Because you know why? Because most people don't do it. That's why it's not obvious. So imagine if you started to review your goals every single day. Do you think that you would have more impetus to go after them? And you gotta attach emotion to that thing that you want. Everybody go like this, say information.